All right, let's cut the crap. I used to think national parks were for, a bunch of fucking trees and shit. Granola munching hippies and all that. But fuck, was I wrong?
Yeah, you're in for a wild ride, my friend.
Turns out these places have a history wilder than, like a goddamn bear on bath salts. We're about to deep dive into some seriously unexpected shit about these so-called protected places.
We're going to dig into the dirt, the politics, the money games behind these parks. And yeah, we'll talk about those badass park rangers too, the ones who keep things from going full on Lord of the Flies.
Okay, so let's rewind the clock way back, like way, way back, when these protected areas weren't exactly, about saving the goddamn squirrels, right?
All right. In Europe, these early parks were basically the king's personal hunting grounds.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, think of it like those pay-to-hunt ranches, except medieval style.
Okay, so like a medieval version of those rich asshole ranches. Got it.
Exactly, except these guys were royalty. They could wipe out entire species and no one would bat an eye.
But some poor farmer couldn't even grab a branch for firewood.
Oh, hell no. That's a paddling.
Sounds pretty fucked up.
Ah.
So how the hell did we go from those elitist hunting grounds to these massive parks we have today, where everyone and their grandma can, wander around and take selfies with a bison?
Well, there was a shift in thinking.
Like, what? People finally realized killing everything wasn't so sustainable.
Yeah, that, and there was a move away from, the whole nature is for the rich to exploit, and it started moving toward nature should be preserved for everyone.
Makes sense.
This idea started gaining some traction in the 1800s. William Wordsworth, the poet?
Can't say I do. One of those romantic dudes with the puffy shirts, right?
Yeah, pretty much. But here's the thing. Wordsworth was a huge advocate for public access to nature. He believed that beautiful landscapes like England's Lake District should be national property.
National property?
Yeah, accessible to everyone, not just the wealthy. That idea was revolutionary at the time.
So this Wordsworth dude was basically saying, hey, nature shouldn't be a luxury item. It should be a goddamn right. Pretty radical for a guy who probably spent most of his time staring at flowers and shit.
Exactly. And that idea eventually made its way across the pond to the U.S. A guy named George Catlin picked up the torch. He was a painter and writer obsessed with Native American culture.
Okay, so like a nature dude, but with a paintbrush?
Yeah, something like that. And he envisioned these vast protected landscapes showcasing not just nature, but also Native American culture.
So like a giant museum of nature and culture all rolled into one.
Exactly. But the U.S. government's first attempt at creating a park, it was a total shit show.
What do you mean?
They designated this area in Arkansas called Hot Springs as a protected area. But there was no real legal framework, no enforcement, nothing.
It was like a free-for-all.
Basically, good idea, but the execution, terrible.
Sounds like they were winging it.
Big time. It's a stark contrast to what happened a few decades later in California with Yosemite. They granted it state park status, and it actually worked.
Finally, they figured it out.
Right. And it set the stage for the national park system we know today.
So who was the mastermind behind this whole national park thing? Some tree-hugging bureaucrat.
Well, if we're talking about the U.S., gotta give credit to John Muir.
Oh yeah, I've heard that name.
This dude was a badass writer and activist, fought tooth and nail to protect Yosemite.
Seriously?
Yeah, lived in the wilderness, wrote about its beauty, and lobbied politicians relentlessly.
So like the original park ranger, minus the uniform.
Pretty much. A one-man conservation army.
Wow.
And his work paved the way for Yellowstone to become the world's first official national park back in 1872.
Get out of here.
Seriously. His writing was so powerful, it literally changed the course of conservation history.
Damn. That's some seriously influential shit.
Yeah.
But I bet there's more to the Yellowstone story than just some dude with a typewriter, right?
Oh, absolutely. There were all sorts of political shenanigans and backroom deals. Remember, this was the Wild West era. Lots of money at stake.
So it wasn't all about protecting nature then?
Nope. The railroads were pushing hard to get access to Yellowstone. They saw it as a way to attract tourists, rake in those profits.
So it was all about the Benjamins, huh? Nothing's ever pure.
True that. But even though there were shady dealings involved, you got to give Teddy Roosevelt credit for protecting Yellowstone. He was a president who actually gave a damn about conservation.
Roosevelt, that's the dude who, didn't he punch a moose or something?
Maybe, maybe not. But he wasn't afraid to throw down.
Whether it was a moose or a greedy lumber baron.
You got it.
Speaking of badasses, let's not forget Australia. Didn't they get in on the park action early on?
Oh, yeah, they sure did. Australia's Royal National Park was established just a few years after Yellowstone, 1879 to be exact.
That's pretty impressive.
Right. It goes to show this parks for the people idea wasn't just an American thing.
Yeah, a whole global movement was brewing, so it wasn't all about hiking and bears then.
Nope. And don't forget about the money. These parks aren't just pretty places. They're huge economic drivers.
Oh, so like tourist traps.
Kind of, but on a grander scale. Take Costa Rica, for example. Their national parks are a major tourist attraction.
And they're raking it in.
Billions of dollars every year.
So these parks are like the Apple of the nature world. Sleek, expensive, and everyone wants a piece of them.
That's a pretty good analogy.
And just like Apple needs its Genius Bar to keep things running, national parks need their park rangers.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
No, when I think of park rangers, I picture those bearded dudes with binoculars.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, leading nature walks and pointing out bird nests.
No, that's part of it. But remember those poachers and greedy corporations we talked about?
Yeah.
Park rangers are the ones dealing with that shit.
Wait, so they're like park cops?
Pretty much. Traffic violations, accidents, even criminal activity.
Damn, that's way more badass than I thought.
It's not all sunshine and roses, that's for sure. And it's a far cry from the early days when they were just caretakers. The roles evolved a lot.
Now they're like the Swiss Army knives of the park world. Got a tool for every damn situation.
Exactly. They got to be adaptable and skilled in a ton of areas. Tough job, but hey, someone's got to do it.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here. From royal hunting grounds to badass park rangers.
Yeah.
These national parks are way more than just pretty trees and shit.
That's for sure. We've only just scratched the surface, but it's a good start.
Gives you a good idea of, the history and all that, and why these places are so damn important.
Exactly. Okay, so we talked about, where these national parks came from, but let's be real for a second. These places aren't all sunshine and rainbows.
You mean there's more to it than taking selfies with a bear and calling it a day?
Yeah, they've got their fair share of problems, too.
Well, yeah, no shit. I mean, I get that these parks should be accessible to everyone, but how the hell do you balance that with actually protecting the environment?
Yeah.
It seems like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, it's definitely a tightrope walk. Tourism brings in much-needed cash, helps fund conservation, and gets people excited about nature. But it can also lead to overcrowding, pollution, and damage to ecosystems.
It's like those idiots who carved their names into that ancient redwood in Yosemite a while back. Fucking morons.
Yeah, that's a prime example. And it's not just about morons carving up trees. Think about all those visitors driving their gas-guzzling cars, staying in hotels, using tons of resources.
So what's the solution? Do we just ban everyone from national parks and turn them into, like, giant exclusive nature clubs?
That's one extreme. Not exactly realistic, though. Got to find a middle ground.
Makes sense.
Some parks are trying out reservation systems, limiting the number of visitors allowed at any given time. Others are investing in more sustainable infrastructure, like electric shuttle buses and eco-friendly accommodations.
Sounds pretty fancy.
Yeah.
But will it actually work? You know how stubborn people can be, especially tourists? They want their selfies with the goddamn bears and all that.
True, you can't force people to give a shit.
Yeah.
But education plays a big role here. We need to teach people to, respect these places, understand why they're important, and to tread lightly. It's about fostering a sense of responsibility, not just slapping on a bunch of rules.
Speaking of responsibility, how are we doing on the whole conservation front? Are we actually saving these endangered species and ecosystems? Or are we just delaying the inevitable?
That's a complicated question.
Oh, come on. There's got to be an answer.
Well, the answer is complicated.
Fine, fine.
There have been some pretty remarkable success stories. The bald eagle, for example, was once on the brink of extinction, but it's made a comeback, thanks in part to those conservation efforts in parks and other protected areas.
It's pretty badass. So there's hope, right? We're not totally screwing this up.
There's always hope, but it's an uphill battle.
Oh, great.
Climate change is a major threat, screwing up habitats, pushing species toward extinction. Then we've got poaching, habitat loss, invasive species.
It's like a never-ending game of whack-a-mole.
Pretty much. But there are a lot of people out there working their asses off to protect these ecosystems. It's a constant struggle, but, one worth fighting for.
Okay, so we've talked about the challenges and all that depressing shit, but let's switch gears for a minute. What about the cultural significance of these parks? They're more than just trees and, endangered species, right?
Oh, absolutely. They often hold deep cultural and historical significance for indigenous communities. the folks who've lived in these areas for centuries.
Like, those ancient cave paintings in Mesa Verde National Park. That shit's mind-blowing.
Exactly. These parks are like living museums, preserving natural wonders, but also the stories and traditions of, the people who called these lands home.
So how do we make sure these stories are told? It seems like a lot of history gets swept under the rug.
It's crucial to involve indigenous communities in the management and interpretation of these parks.
Right, their voices need to be heard.
Exactly. A lot of parks are working on collaborative initiatives. They're incorporating traditional knowledge into conservation practices and creating opportunities for cultural exchange.
That's pretty awesome. So it's not just about saving the trees and animals. It's about preserving the whole damn story of these places, the human and the natural, all mixed together.
Exactly. Recognizing that interconnectedness.
Okay, so we've covered some pretty heavy shit here. Accessibility, conservation, cultural heritage, a lot to process. But before we wrap up part 2, I gotta ask, what's the most fucked up thing you've ever seen in a national park?
Oh, man. I've seen some things, but I think the most unsettling thing is the rise of what I call Instagram tourism.
Oh, hell yeah. Those idiots hanging off cliffs for the perfect selfie. It's like natural selection, but, with more filters.
It's more than just risky selfies, though.
Oh.
It's the commodification of these spaces.
Again.
The focus on capturing the perfect shot for social media, instead of actually experiencing the beauty and wonder around them.
So people are so busy trying to impress their followers that they're missing the whole point.
Sadly, yeah. And it's contributing to overcrowding, littering, and a general disrespect for the environment. It's like they're viewing the park through a filter, a curated version of reality instead of the real, raw thing.
Man, that's messed up.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder if we're actually connecting with nature or just creating a facade for social media.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And it's one we'll be exploring further in part 3 of our deep dive.
Okay, so we've, dug into all that history, the challenges, the cultural stuff. But let's get philosophical for a minute. Like, what's the point of all this? Are these parks just, giant playgrounds for humans? Or is there something deeper going on?
That's the million-dollar question, and there's no easy answer. It all comes down to, our relationship with nature. Are we a part of it? Or are we separate?
Damn, that's deep. I never thought about it like that. I always saw these parks as a way to escape from the everyday bullshit,
Right.
Get away from the concrete jungle.
I get that. That's definitely part of the appeal. These parks give us a chance to, reconnect with something bigger than ourselves, experience awe and wonder, breathe some fresh air, remember that there's more to life than, traffic jams and deadlines.
Yeah, like hitting the reset button.
Exactly. But I think it goes deeper than that. These parks remind us that we're part of something interconnected. Our actions have consequences. We got to protect this planet.
So it's not just about snapping a selfie with a goddamn bison.
Well, a good bison selfie never hurt anyone. But yeah, it's about more than that. It's about understanding that we're not just visitors in these parks. We're stewards. We got to protect them for future generations.
So like we're borrowing them from our grandkids.
Exactly. We need to leave these parks in better shape than we found them. And that means changing the way we think, recognizing that our actions have a collective impact.
Man, you're making me feel like I should recycle more or something.
Every little bit helps. And it's not just individual actions, It's about fighting for policies that protect these parks, supporting organizations that are, dedicated to conservation, and holding our leaders accountable for their environmental decisions.
So it's a team effort. We all got to do our part to keep these parks awesome.
Exactly. Collective action, shared responsibility.
All right, so what can our listeners do? How can they actually, make a difference?
First things first, get out there and experience these parks. The more people connect with nature, the more they'll care about protecting it. Support your local parks, volunteer, donate to those conservation organizations, educate yourself, and vote for candidates who actually give a shit about the environment.
Sounds like a plan.
Mm-hmm.
Any final words of wisdom before we wrap this up?
Just remember that national parks are more than just pretty places to take pictures. They're reminders of our connection to nature, our responsibility to the planet, and the importance of preserving these wild spaces for generations to come.
Damn, that's some inspirational shit. All right, folks, that's a wrap on our deep dive into national parks. We covered a lot of ground here, from royal hunting grounds to, philosophical musings. Hopefully you learn some unexpected shit, maybe even feel inspired to Uh, get out there and explore these incredible places yourself.
And remember, national parks are for everyone. It's up to all of us to protect them. So ditch the selfie stick, lace up your boots, and experience the real deal.
And for fuck's sake, don't carve your name into any trees. Peace out.